Hello, welcome to Sephra's World. My name is Sephra, and this is my world. And in fact, this video will probably go on my very, very sad, long neglected pop culture channel here on YouTube. So my name is Sephra. I'm a freelance writer. I'm a novelist. I'm a screenwriter. And I like to prattle on sometimes about various subject matters. And if you want to hear more from me, you can follow me here on the Pop Culture channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I have a couple of channels on YouTube, but I'm going to try and reactivate this Pop Culture one because I do have a few things to say about all kinds of things to say. And not just Star Wars. Today, I wanted to, I guess what spurred me on to redo my channel or to get things back up and running again. It's been a difficult few years for me, with my personal life, those of you who know. And this item is in the news, and it's important. It's important to talk about it and think about it. There's so much vitriol and animosity around this subject. But I thought maybe since I live in Canada, and I've lived in Canada since I was a little kid, that maybe I can offer a perspective that is not quite this jumping on the bandwagon perspective that a lot of very angry people have. So what's happening right now is the trial is on for the Rust movie. Back in 2021, the movie Rust was being filmed in New Mexico, and Alec Baldwin is the star, and Halyna Hutchins was the photographer, cinematographer, director of photography, shooting the movie, and the director is Mr. Souza. And so we all know by now what's going on. There's a scene being rehearsed. Alec Baldwin was aiming the gun at the camera as he was directed to, and the gun went off and killed Halyna, and the bullet went through and hit the director as well, who was sitting behind her. And so now there's a murder trial happening. It's a couple of years later. Poor Halyna Hutchinson died. And right now, last week, there were 2 days of court for the armorer. Hannah, let me get her name correct. I should know it by heart. I've heard it so much. Gutierrez. Hannah Gutierrez was the armorer on the set of Rust. So when you're making a movie, there are not only actors, but there's tons of crew and everything. I have worked on dozens of movie sets as an actor. I have worked in dozens of sets in theater. So I know a lot about a lot of things with how all these moving parts are working or not working. And for people who don't know much about the film business or how movies are constructed, how the fine arts work, and sort of the chains of command, it can be really confusing, and it might seem obvious what really happened, but it's actually not so obvious what really happened. So the scene was rehearsed, and I personally have seen a lot of video. I was very invested in the case, and am now for sure. I'll back up a little bit. So I am a big Alec Baldwin fan, and I know that's not a popular opinion, especially now. But I will tell you why. Because 30 Rock is one of my absolute favorite shows in the universe. Cheers, Seinfeld, Frasier, 30 Rock. Like, those are my jams. And for the last couple of years, I've been watching and rewatch. I've been binge watching all the seasons of 30 Rock endlessly. And even before all that happened, it's on TV. If you know, they run it all the time on cable TV. So if I happen to be see it on, I'll watch it. And on the streaming services, like I said, I've binge watched the entire all the seasons several times now. And part of that is just because I love the show so much. And also because, you know, I love Tina Fey. I'm myself am trying to break into television, working on TV pilots, and I love comedy sitcoms. Like I just named you my favorite shows. They're all sitcoms, except American Horror Story, which is so uneven. But and I love Tina Fey, and the chemistry that Alec Baldwin and Tina Fey have on 30 Rock is just so magic. That show is crazy, and it would never get done today because there's so much wrong with it that, you know, the modern generations can't deal with. But to me, it is classic humor, and Alec Baldwin is perfectly cast, as is Tina Fey, Tracy Morgan, and the rest of them. They're all perfectly cast for their roles. It's an amazing show. So I believe around the time that Rust was being shot, Alec Baldwin was in Dr. Death. He was playing one of the lawyers, I believe. I didn't see the entire series because I didn't get it here in Canada, but I managed to, you know, look at some of it. And so I'm sure, I think Dr. Death came out right around the time the shooting happened, so that probably didn't do very well because everyone hates Alec Baldwin. We know Alec Baldwin has always been super problematic as an actual human being. I said I liked the show. I doesn't mean, you know, we can separate. We can. I'm one of those people that actually understands how to separate the art from the artist, and you can argue all you want about whether that should happen or not, but in my mind, I I know what I'm dealing with here. So Alec Baldwin is known to be a hothead. He's known to be an asshole. He's known to be a megalomaniac, probably a narcissist. Most people in Hollywood are narcissistic to some degree, I would imagine, because you have to believe in yourself in order to get ahead and in order to make all these deals and so on. So, yes, Alec Baldwin has always been a problematic type of person. Then, of course, the right-wingers hate him because he impersonated Trump a lot on Saturday Night Live, um, and did a pretty good job, you know. He wasn't the best Trump, wasn't the worst Trump, but he did a good job. And of course, I'm a fan, so I'm always happy to see him when he pops on for those appearances. So, but when it comes to this tragic case, so Alec Baldwin is one of the producers for the Rust movie. Producers do have a lot of responsibility. I know when this case first happened, he was talking about how he was kind of one of the lower producers on the ladder of producers, and his producerly role, or however you say it, wasn't quite as involved as some of the other producers, and I'm still not quite clear if he actually was actively involved in the hiring and firing of a cast and crew. Definitely producers, that is part of their job, but also production managers and other people do hiring as well. And so today I listened to the phone call that Alec Baldwin had with one of the police officers right after it happened. He was driving to Vermont, so it was a telephone call that's just been released, I believe. It's about 45 minutes, and he's pretty much just talking about all the things we already know at this point. And I believe him. He has never really changed his story as far as everything I've seen and heard. I saw his interviews, and now there's been a couple of days of court. I've watched a lot of footage from various live streams on YouTube. The court case with Hannah Gertia is on trial right now. Alec Baldwin's trial will be later. So who's responsible for Halyna Hutchinson's death? Is the big question, of course. So my big long ramble, I'm 10 minutes into this video, just trying to give you a background of what I know, what I understand, how I'm seeing or perceiving the situation with the knowledge I personally have or don't have about situations and the knowledge I have or don't have about people involved. I knew nothing about Halyna Hutchinson or Hannah Gurdies or anyone else. But like I said, I've been following Alec for years. Alec is about the same age as me. He's, I think, 3 years older than me. So he's always been in my life because he's been doing shows and movies his whole life. Well, I think probably as a young man. Anyways, so I've heard all his nasty phone calls they play on Entertainment Tonight about, his daughter or this and that. And, we know he's a hothead asshole. We know that. And so on the set of Rust, he's producer. So today in the phone call, he kept talking about how he didn't pull the trigger. And, we've seen the videos and it still isn't really that clear if he did. And, I've been thinking a lot about this, and in my mind, it's very likely he did pull the trigger, because if you have your hand in a gun, it's probably natural to do it, even if you're not thinking you're doing it. You probably automatically do. I don't know. That's another thing I need to preface in the video is I live in Canada. We don't have a gun culture here. I'm a horror writer. I hardly ever use guns in my books and stories because it doesn't occur to me, because we don't really do guns here, at least in my growing up years. Now there's been more shootings the last couple of years, but we don't have the same gun culture that the United States has. So we don't have the same ideas or knowledge. For us, it would make more sense to pick up an axe or something to murder someone and that sort of thing. So I don't have a lot of knowledge of guns. I played with cap guns as a little kid, but I lived in the States for that. So, but other than that, I've never touched a gun, I don't think, a real gun. So I don't know a lot about them, but I know if I had my little cap gun in my hand, I'd probably automatically be pulling the trigger, because you just do. So that's super unfortunate. But it's horrific that, Halyna died and the director was shot, and everybody's traumatized for the rest of their lives. Yeah, it is horrific, absolutely horrible. But who's responsible? I've said from the very first day, the very first moment I heard about this happening, that it is Hannah's fault. The minute it happened and we heard it on the news, I was out going for a walk, and I used to listen a lot to Clubhouse. Clubhouse, you get on your phone and it's just audio. And I was on a channel, and I was out for a huge long walk around the lake, and I was on a channel where they're oh my God, the shooting just happened on the set of Rust, and then a couple people were calling in from the set, and at the time I was listening, I wasn't so sure if they really were or not. I think people were calling in from the set to people who were relaying to us information. They weren't directly talking to us on Clubhouse. They were talking to their buddies who were talking to us on Clubhouse. And, a couple of years later, everything I heard in that immediate half hour after the shooting happened, that those stories have never changed. And the big shocker that day, 10 minutes after we hear this poor woman has died, that we heard right from the horse's mouth that the crew would take the guns out and do shooting. And of course now, everyone knows this now, but at the time it wasn't that well known. And they would put in real bullets and then go shoot pop cans and stuff. At the end of the day when everybody's relaxing and having dinner or whatever. And, it's a hard life working on a film set. It's a very hard life. Because I've been on them. I only go in for a day, and I'm like, how do people do this day in, day out? This is hard, and I'm just a background person, and I spend most of my time in the back reading. I don't even have to do anything. And so people like lugging cables and checking props and doing costumes. It's a grueling, grueling life. It is, and exciting too. Very exciting, very, very hard work. And the hierarchy of the film business is very specific. Everyone has their very specific jobs, and it's very specific what specific people do. And people like Alec Baldwin, who have been acting for like 40 years, and even in 30 Rock, there's many scenes of him with guns and shooting guns, and there's guns used a lot. He's been in other movies where he has guns. He has worked a lot with guns. So he probably has a sense of how things work, how they're supposed to work, and all that. By the end of all this, I mean, Tina Fey didn't get shot. Actually, they showed the one with the gun right after the shooting, and I'm like, oh my God, does no one pay attention to what's happening? Like, no, no one does. We know no one pays attention to shit anymore. So Alec Baldwin has worked a lot with guns. This was not his first rodeo, literally. It was not. And so he probably had specific routines and specific expectations of how this works. I will also backtrack again that I was in the crew of a community theater production of West Side Story, and I was actually the gun wrangler. The scene where they got the gun. I wasn't the authorized gun. I wasn't the armorer. There was someone else who was the licensed armorer. But my job, every show, was to walk with the gun dude to the safe. He would get out the gun, check it. He would give it to me, and then I would carefully take the gun and put it where in the little cupboard where it is taken out for the scene and it's used, the death happens, whatever. And then the minute there's the blackout, I go in and get the gun. Like the minute the gun isn't used anymore in the show, I would go in a blackout, get the gun, then I take it back to the gun dude, and we put it back in the safe. And that's how it was done in a community theater production, right? I didn't get paid, it's volunteer work. So I that's my only experience. So I guess I did hold a real gun. I don't think it was a real gun. I think it was a prop gun, but it did shoot blanks because it had to shoot, when Tony shoots it, right? I believe it's Tony who shoots it because that's the whole big trauma and drama of the second act of West Side Story, right? So oh no, it wasn't Tony, it was the brother. Anyways, Tony. Spoilers, West Side Story, there's a gun. Anyways, whatever, we're not talking about West Side Story, but I was talking about how I know a little teeny tiny bit about guns and acting. When that boy reaches for the gun on the stage, he doesn't have time to check it. He just goes, he grabs that, he's saying his scene, blah, 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 grabs the gun, shoots it, and you hope it's a blank, right? Because it's up to the person who's dealing with it in the safe that it is safe. And then he gave it to me. I'm presuming it's safe. I don't know, actually. And in hearing this trial, I'm like, shit, maybe I should have been checking that gun. I wouldn't even know how. But that's how we did it. And I never looked in the gun. I wouldn't even know how to open up a gun or any of that. I just knew that's how that went. And so that guy who was taking the gun in and out of the safe, that would be Hannah's job. So Hannah's job is taking these guns in and out of the safe. Oh, my screen popped off. And making sure they're safe. And then also Hannah's job is to load the gun with blanks. And now we have seen this week, and you can go on a lot of the YouTube channels now that have been showing the court cases or discussing the court cases. And as I learned from those Clubhouse conversations 2 years ago, that there's blanks and live ammunition mixed in together. And so I watched a thing yesterday. They're showing the boxes of the ammunition or bullets or whatever you call it, and you can see the live ones. They circled them in the pictures, but the live ones have a specific look as opposed to the blanks. I never knew how you knew before, but then I uh, got a lesson yesterday on the YouTubes. And so, and that's the scary thing. They showed the belt that Alec Baldwin was wearing, you know, the gun holster belt dicky-doo. There were a couple of live bullets in his belt. And I'm sure when he heard that in that court case that day, he must have fucking hit the roof. I'm sure he had no idea he had live bullets around his waist. And of course, so there was a live bullet in the gun. And live bullets all over the set, apparently. We're going to hear more about it next week. So, as far as I'm concerned, the armorer has one job, although apparently Hannah had a couple of jobs because she was also doing props. But you know what? There's a lot of people doing props, and people, oh, she had too many jobs. It's like, props person, they just delegate to the other prop people. Like, come on. You know, it's that's anyone in the business knows that's how that goes down. So she spent half an hour rolling a couple of cowboy cigarettes for the scenes. Like, that takes 10 minutes. Like, fuck off. You know, I'm sorry. I'm not buying that she was overworked with the props. No, I don't buy that for a minute. And I don't think she bought that for a minute either, but now she can use it as a defense or whatever. So, but my point is, her job is to deal with the guns and the ammunition. There should be absolutely no live bullets on any set, whether you're in the film business or community theater. There's no reason for live bullets, you know. And then someone was saying on one of the videos, like, what if Alec Baldwin was doing a suicide scene and you know, the gun went off, right? So it's horrible, but this woman, she is the guilty one. So everyone's saying, oh, Alec Baldwin should have checked the gun when he handed it to her. She handed it to him. And I say, no. Obviously, he's worked with guns a million times and has never had to do that before, or he would have done it, right? Her job, her only job, is to make sure the guns are safe and they have blanks, to load them, to clean them, to make sure they work, or it's the right gun for the right scene, and all that. That's her job. And that is a prop too. Guns are props. So she handed him a gun. So that day, apparently the guns were all hanging around, and I know they went for lunch, came back, and then they did the scene. And so it wasn't even Hannah who handed Alec Baldwin the gun, but the assistant director handed him the gun, thinking it was a safe gun. So again, the chain of command fell down because, as far as I understand, but I don't know the actual rules of the movie set, but Hannah probably should have been the one to hand the gun to Alec Baldwin. But then again, the assistant director guy, that was kind of like, that would have been like me in West Side Story. I trusted the armorer who gave me the gun, and then I give it to the actor, right? So at any rate, there's absolutely, it's madness that there were any live bullets on that set, and that's the fault of the armorer. I do not hold Alec Baldwin responsible for actually killing Halyna. I don't. I'm very sad about it. Very, very, very sad. But how I understand how guns work on movie sets, he was doing his job as the actor, and his job is not to check guns to see if there's live ammo. Would he even know? I don't know, probably, maybe. I don't know. Would he even know if it was a live ammo if he had looked inside? I don't even know how you do that, but so as far as I'm concerned, it's 100% on Hannah that she did not do her job. And people can go on about, oh, they were cutting corners, they shouldn't have hired an unknown or whatever. I say you got to start somewhere. Yeah, they gave her a chance because her father was a famous armorer, supposedly in the business, a Hollywood gun dude. And, so this is the new generation. And everybody starts somewhere. This is a low budget movie. She's in her 20s, like 23 or whatever. Why not? Why not give her the job? I had zero issues with giving her the job. Um, just because she's not as skilled as the person that costs twice as much. They had a budget to meet. And as we heard, there's a lot of budget cuts with hotels and so on, and a lot of unhappiness on the set, a lot of problems. And, and again, when I was listening to that Clubhouse thing, I heard back then about how people would do the target shooting. The set was in chaos because rules weren't being followed, and the hotels were shitty, and there weren't breaks, and blah, 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 all this stuff. But a lot of film sets are shitty. A lot of them are. I've been very lucky to almost every set I've been on here in Toronto, just doing my little background work, has all been amazing. But there are a lot of sets that you got to cut corners, cut budgets, and so on. And sometimes that means shitty stuff. I mean, I was watching Oppenheimer. The cast of Oppenheimer was on a talk show the other day, and I'd only caught a couple minutes. I was probably going to watch 30 Rock, but they were talking about how they were staying in really, really low budget hotels. And they said even, Christopher Nolan was staying in the low budget motel because he stays where he puts his actors. And every single movie ever made is always trying to cut corners, save money, and so on. All of them, everyone. So to say that was a problem with Rust, I don't agree that that was the problem with Rust. It's the problem with every goddamn movie ever made. And so there's one more thing I just wanted to talk about for a minute with regard to Hannah. And that is people are really coming down on her about her appearance. And I think this is bullshit. I see a lot of people saying, oh, she had like colorful hair on the set and, was wearing flannel or whatever. And it's like, if you've ever been on a movie set, a lot of the crew looks like that. A lot of people in crew on movie sets, they're like unique people. You have to be to work these crazy hours in these crazy jobs, putting on a make-believe something that doesn't exist, so many people, and she looked exactly like someone who's on crew on a movie set when I saw pictures of her back when it was happening. So everyone can just fuck all the way off with criticizing her appearance, how she was dressed, how her hair was, how she talked or whatever. Oh, now she's in court and her hair's all one color and she's wearing a dress or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, because she's in court. She knows how to dress to the occasion. She's on a film set, running around with guns in the desert and the dirt. Super long, sweaty, horrible, dirty days. They're in the fucking desert, man. Oh, she was so scuzzy and sweaty on the set. Like, I can't believe I'm seeing these things on Twitter. I'm like, have you worked 1 hour on a film set in the desert in Mexico on a ranch? Like, come on. So everyone can just stop with all that nonsense. I feel bad for her on one hand, because like this is a horror show, but on the other hand, she did not do her job, and people are going on about, oh, she's doing coke or she's doing weed, and tell me who doesn't do that shit on movie sets, or maybe not while they're actually working, but partying afterwards. Yeah, so what? They're people. And a lot of film crew work hard and party hard, and nothing wrong with that whatsoever, except for when, they get sloppy, things get messed up. But I go back to, I don't even think it was being sloppy that day, because it all started when Hannah, who is in charge of all the ammunition on set, brought live bullets to set, and she knew she brought live bullets to set because they were doing target practice on pop cans and stuff in their off hours. So there were live bullets on the set, and that is what happened. And I don't know what's going to happen to Alec Baldwin as the producer. He'll probably get some kind of fine or something, as all the producers should equally be held accountable, not just Alec Baldwin, but all of them. They all are in it together. And Alec Baldwin, the actor, should not be brought into anything. He was doing his job, and he's done it. Like I said, I have seen him with guns in tons and tons of stuff. He knows how to operate around guns, and he trusted it would be the same as other times he's worked with guns. And, you know, you can say that, oh, he didn't go to the safety meeting or whatever. And he probably thought he didn't have to because he's worked with guns so much. You know, I don't know if there were safety meetings he missed or not. I'm a little murky on what's real and what isn't when people are talking about that. Because in the phone call I heard this morning, he was saying how she never, like, she's starting to say all these things about, Hannah was starting to say things about how she was trying to call safety meetings or something, and Alex said no, that wasn't true. But we don't know. We weren't there. We don't know who's telling the truth or not. But we do know that there was live ammunition where there should not have been live ammunition, and that is the fault of the person in charge of ammunition. And if I was the judge on that case, that is exactly how I would see it. And that's my opinion. So you will have your own opinions. I'd like to see them. Tell me I'm full of shit. Go on, tell me. Like I said, I'm from Canada, so I have a different perspective on gun culture and handling guns and dealing with guns. But I also know how the arts work. So I'm one of those unique people where I do actually understand a lot more than some other people do. And that's why I thought I'd come on and do this video. If you like this video, please give me a like. It helps the logarithms. And if you want to share it, share it. If you want to subscribe, I'm going to talk about Poor Things, I think, in a couple of days. That movie's been going around in my head. I've only seen it once, but it really left an impact on me, and I'd like to ramble on to you about that at some future point. Anyways, have a lovely day. I might come back and talk more about this trial. We'll see how this week goes in the trial. And, you know, I feel very bad for Halyna Hutchins and her family, her children, and I feel sorry for Alec Baldwin's children too. Like, what a nightmare. All right. Have a good day.